Well, hello and welcome to PM Express, and by this time you should be sat back, relaxed, finished your dinner and waiting for what topic we're going to bring. And as you know, we go in depth, have a good hour to discuss a good old topic, and today we're looking at the representation of the People's Amendment Act, which is Act 699. Now, April 4th, 2016, a group of Ghanaians who formed the Progressive Alliance movement, live in America, thought that, look, their rights were being denied them because even though they were in America, they're still Ghanaians, and they also had to vote. They had to exercise their franchise as to who becomes president or who becomes an MP in the constituency. And that had been on the drawing board for quite a while. Indeed, all the way back President Kufuor's time, 2005, it was passed into law that, yep, wherever a Ghanaian is, if you wish to vote, you can exercise that vote. It was on the drawing board, it was on the shelves, gathering dust, as many laws do, but the Progressive Alliance thought, no, this should come off the shelf and it should be implemented. So in 2016, they went to court, and as the case was being heard, the elections were coming up, so they stopped and put it on hold. But now the elections are over, so they came back to court to sort the court that, listen, human rights are being denied, and it's about time the EC implemented this law. The court heard their case, and the court thinks that, yep, they are right. They should be allowed to vote wherever they are. And so it is now law. EC has been given a year to come up with the modalities so that by 2020, wherever you are, you should be able to vote if you wish to. But it's one of those things that's easier said than done. Here we are, living on borrowed everything. We're living on borrowed everything. And now we're going to add, voting worldwide. I want to ask, how do we monitor? How do we police? How do we punish? How do we count? Who knows who is a Ghanaian? There are questions about, being a Ghanaian. If you're not in Ghana, and you are outside of Ghana, being a Ghanaian is a big, big plus. So if you're in London, America, Switzerland, Germany, every West African wishes to own a Ghanaian passport because it's got a lot of credibility. So you have a lot of Nigerians, Malians, who managed to secure a Ghanaian passport. Are they all going to decide who becomes president? It's one of those things that we just have to keep quiet and watch and see how it plays. And that's the conversation this evening. I'm sure you wouldn't want to move at all. And I have one of the guys who took the case to court in-house. So just stay put. When I come back, after this short clip on ROPA, we will be talking about your right to vote wherever you are. My name is Nana Sakwal IV, Chief of the Little Republic of Akwamodu Masan, your favorite host. You don't want to move.
The excitement was visible on the faces of the individuals who had brought the matter before the court and got Justice Anthony Yeboah to rule in their favor. They had argued that the EC had failed to implement the 11-year-old legislation, which had led to a breach of their fundamental human rights. They had asked that the court orders the Electoral Commission to begin implementation of the law that will see Ghanaians residents abroad take part in national elections and referenda. Lawyers for the Electoral Commission had opposed the application. They had insisted that they were in the process of implementing the law and did not see that they should be compelled to do so. They also talked about logistical constraints that implementing ROPAA could have on the Commission, particularly issues of financial burden. But Justice Anthony Yeboah, in his landmark decision, informed the parties to the case that the Electoral Commission had failed to justify the delay in implementing the law. He described the reasons advanced as unjustified, unreasonable and saying that the Electoral Commission only demonstrated that it was poor in capacity, that is institutional wise, if it cannot find solutions to these challenges. He also pointed out that they had failed to show evidence that they had presented a budget to Parliament which passed the legislation and which controls the purse, and had turned down their request for finance to carry out the exercise. The other director at the Electoral Commission and director to the commissioners for that matter is to have them within 12 months ensure that the appropriate constitutional instrument is put in place. Now, 30 days to expiration of this 12 months deadline, if for whatever justifiable reason they cannot have the constitutional instrument put in place, they should communicate to the court and the general public for that matter the reasons for their failure to obey the orders of the court. As can be imagined, they sang, danced, and chanted, puffed their fists in the air.
So we are so thankful for everybody else that, of course, I can remember all the churches, all the people who supported us. This is a big day this is a win for Ghana. We're excited.
And very exhaustive decision. The decision simply being that for 10 years, the Electoral Commission has been egregious and deliberate in ignoring the implementation of Act 699. It is certain that Ghanaians living abroad will vote. Viva Ghana!
Viva Ghana!
Viva ROPA! Viva ROPA! Now,
it is obvious that the commission is in some kind of turmoil as there are petitions seeking to impeach the three main commissioners at the Electoral Commission. I engaged lawyer for the plaintiffs, Samson Ladi Ayenini, who thought that is not of concern to the plaintiffs.
What we are concerned about is what the law says ought to be, which has not been. And we have come to the court and urged the court on the points of law. The Electoral Commission contended that the right to be registered to vote and to vote from abroad is not one that can immediately, be done for them. Even though it claims that it had been doing so assiduously, the evidence shows that it has simply been sleeping on the job or just deliberately not intended in making sure that what Parliament had done was actually, was giving, as it were, what it needed to be done.
Now, as simple as it may sound, this is big, 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 with big repercussions. Representations of the People's Amendment Act must come into force within 12 months, and by 2020 it should act. With me in the studio is Kofi Kranting. Kofi, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nanansa. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, you're welcome. And for those who may not remember, Kofi was the one who responded to the winding situation, and here he's allowed to wind. I give you a license to wind, Kofi.
Thank you.
But Kofi, you see, one will say, well, you guys are in your brutary and living with systems that work and surpluses that you're able to give aids and everything. And here you are, going to, lading us with so much burden. We're borrowing as it is just to, vote here. And now you're adding, the diaspora to it. Are you just being, advisedly selfish, saying, look, we don't care, whether it costs you a penny or not, come and let us also vote?
Well, I'm actually, it blows me away. I mean, in your delivery, when you were monologuing, you gave a laundry list of we borrowing for everything, and that's the reason why maybe perhaps this should have been done so many years ago, because maybe perhaps if it were done years back, we wouldn't be in a situation where we'd be borrowing so much. And for the simple reason is the constituency of Ghanaians who live abroad is a cash cow, if you milk it properly, that is. And no government to date has really exploited that cash cow. Outside of everything else, we are Ghanaian nationals. We were born here. And as per the Constitution that we all live by, if you were born here, then you have a right, as per the 1992 the Constitution Act 284, that if you're of sound mind, 18 years or above, it's the easiest responsibility, and I'm paraphrasing, to provide for you the circumstances and the situations to have you vote. And so since 1992, actually, we've been denied that right, because since 1992, people abroad were voting at the Ghanaian missions. But that's ROPA in itself. And in 2006, we put a bill towards Parliament to have that extended to all Ghanaians, because it's a right for all Ghanaians. So we don't think it's far-fetched. We don't think this, all the situations that have been made up to be reasons why ROPA is a challenge, it's valid, because the work has not been done yet. If the work were done and we had a specific pathway that said this and that is what is going to take for ROPA to be implemented, then at least we will be speaking from a point of strength, of knowing the facts. The EC, who has the clear mandate to put together the pathway, hasn't done that in 11 years. And I cannot even see how we can even keep a group of people in business when they have failed to do their jobs for 11 years. And you expect the country to move forward? That's absurd.
On the issue of absurdity, let me go straight to the phone and speak to Eric Japasu, who is the PRO for the EC, so he may have some answers for us. Eric, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
Great. Eric, 11 years, has it been too long?
Thank you very much, and good evening. Long or not too long would depend on the way we look at the whole issue. ROPA came exactly some 11 years back, and it came with a caveat that as and when Commission thinks I'm ready to implement ROPA, we'll go ahead and implement ROPA. And it has been back and forth up to now that ROPA got caught, and now we have an order to ensure that ROPA is rolled out, and we get ready with the roadmap in about 12 months' time. So what I would say for now is that the court has given an order. It has ruled. ROPA is existing law. It has been there for a very long time, and it has been reinforced now by these orders of the court. And the position of the Commission is that it has a vision. It has in mind the idea, the plan of rolling out ROPA. Why am I saying that? Commission has a 5-year strategic plan which terminates in the year 2020. And one of the main objectives of that plan is to make sure that by 2020, Ghanaians living abroad who are so qualified will have the right to vote in our election.
Wow. Because I was trying to find out things like electoral malpractices. I'm sure it came up in the judge's reading that, you haven't even presented it to, the Chief Justice to find out, what happens if, Kofi snatches a ballot box in Times Square. I mean, what do you do?
Hello?
Hello, Eric, I was just saying that if somebody snatches a ballot box in Times Square, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, these are all the fine details which must go into preparing for ROPA. ROPA is a very major electoral reform program. And electoral reforms or electoral regulations, yes, the Electoral Commission is the arrowhead. But at the end of the day, it is always a collaborative activity involving all the stakeholders. So the way forward when it comes to providing election security, the logistics, everything, will also factor in the inputs which will be coming from all the major players, even including the government of Ghana. So these will be fine details, and I wouldn't want to preempt any suggestion as to how we maintain election security in Times Square or in Cuba or maybe in Thailand or wherever we might be having the election.
The other thing is, you see, Erica, I think the EC is building for itself either a tradition or a culture where things that are very plain, black and white, always have to be dragged to court and the EC being told what to do. And I can give you a series of things that the EC would always end up in court and get kicked out and not go and do your job. Is it becoming a tradition for the EC now?
No, not. You see, I wouldn't say it's really a tradition. You know, Nana, ours is a nascent democracy. We are growing gradually, and we are growing from strength to strength. Okay, there were times where people may not be too much aware of the possibility of sending some issues to court. Yes, it is true. Some issues have gone to court. Some have been ruled. Let me put it this way: maybe in favor of EC, and in some cases, EC has been compelled to do what, as you put it, we are supposed to do. But that is the right way to go. The EC is created by laws. There are laws, and the laws are subject to varied interpretation. And some of the programs, before you roll them out, you need to build consensus around it. So it is just proper that when it gets to a point and we disagree on the interpretation of the law, people recourse to the law to get the right interpretation. Then we move ahead. Unfortunately, it is creating the impression as if the EC is intransigent, the EC is incompetent, and the EC wouldn't want to do things at the right time. Far from that, these are means of clearing the environment. These are means of all of us coming to a common understanding of what exactly the law says on a particular issue. And when it is so resolved, the environment is sanitized, and we move ahead.
Eric, you see, I agree with you, but, you know, and I really don't want to drag you back and cite so many examples from NHIS cards, from even when you were told to go and implement, you need to go back to God and go back to court and ask what does implementation means. And like when we come back to Europa after 11 years, you haven't submitted a budget, you haven't drawn. I mean, it's like nothing has been done. And, you know, from the judge's position, it's like, look, you know, you haven't done anything in 11 years. At least even if you say, look, okay, in 11 years, we have at least have an idea what it will cost, or we have an idea what the challenges will be, it will look as if you started. But it looks like it's just on the shelf. The position is not right, Eric.
Yeah, Nana, you see, I agree with you, just like you agreed with me. Your position is very correct. But what I'm trying to say is that, see, when that law came, if you go back to it, I just don't have it here immediately. Mm-hmm. You see, it came with a caveat, which means that as at the time that law was passed, you know, the controversy surrounding it, and the lawmakers, put in that caveat that after when the electoral commission is ready. So I would say, right from the word go when ROPA was passed, as a country and as the legislators who passed the law, in their wisdom realized that as at that time, we were not just too right to move on with ROPA. That it's going to take some time for ROPA to be rolled out. And we've had a series of reforms. So our electoral system has been building from strength to strength, incrementally, from one point to the other. So if we have it as a vision that will be rolling out ROPA in the near future as envisaged by the law, and we've reached a point that we think we can make a move and bring the stakeholders together to see how best we can implement it, I think we are just moving forward. We're just moving on. It isn't as if it has been there and nobody cares about doing anything about it. But you need to get all the action. Even now that the ruling has come, you are in charge of the discussions and see the way opinions are so divided about it. But you need to put some consensus around every electoral reform, the legal issues notwithstanding, so that when you move ahead with it and the results come out, everybody accepts it and it's so peaceful, Nana.
Great. I mean, current conflicts with the top hierarchy in the EC now, how are you going to sit to be able to put this together and roll it out in 12 months? Or definitely within 30 days before the 12 months, you issue a note to say, look, the top hierarchy is not settled, so give us more time.
Yeah, we have the commission and we have the staff, and as you rightly said, we have issues in court about the top management. By the moment, I'm not at liberty to speak to the issue of the confusion. But what I'm saying is that the judges ruled, and we are to come out within 1 year with a program. Whatever challenges that we meet on the way, we need to come out and tell the good people of Ghana. So for now, the most important thing is that Commission has accepted the ruling in good faith, and it hasn't changed anything much. Rather, it has reinforced the law, and it has also strengthened our position because it is part of our strategic plan to get done by the close of, by the time we are ready for the next election.
Eric, before I let you go, I mean, will the current situation affect you? I mean,
I wouldn't want to speculate because nobody can tell the direction and the period that the current situation will be resolved. So I wouldn't want to go to that area and hazard a guess by saying it will or it will not, or it may or may not. For now.
But would you need? Will you need the EC, the EC chair himself to sit in such an important document? Should she chair whatever commission or committee that?
Yeah. If you look at the structure of the EC, the chairperson and the two deputies, they form the executive commission. Then we have 4 other members. And when you relate their position to the electoral laws, you realize that decisions must be taken by the commission. So, to some extent, you definitely need either the 3 executives or the full complement of the commission to get things done.
Eric, thank you very much for that explanation. Well, so Kofi, well, the war is still on.
Well, it's sad listening to Eric giving. This is exactly the attitude of the Electoral Commission for the last year and a half, almost. They always had, and this is the mentality, this substandardness that we have come as a country to accept. That all you have to do is just to be good at giving excuses. Because this, I'm listening to him, and it's like an excuse after an excuse. And we have gotten so good at giving excuses, so it's acceptable. We have just elevated or actually gone down to a point where you hear people like Eric, who is very fluent and conclusive in making excuses as to why the Electoral Commission. Are you kidding me? No sane, reasonable person will accept this argument. That's why the judge did not. In 10 years, you were telling me if this is a pathway, you were not able to arrive at anything for 11 years. Come on. You can't make this in a lab, in a test tube. You couldn't possibly, it's not possible. But here they go with excuses. And this is where the leadership has defaulted into and that's why I always say our leadership is really flawed in their thinking, and because they accept somebody like Eric to come up and give excuses, and I know it's not his fault. It's a culture of EC. We made every attempt to the Electoral Commission. I personally flew in just to hand them a letter and fly back to New York just to make sure. I didn't want to designate anybody to do it. I wanted to go in myself and meet Miss Charlotte Osei and hand her over a letter that says, we're serious about this thing. If you have any plans in having this thing resolved, let's sit down and talk about it. Because we didn't want to be hit when we went to court by the judge saying, did you ever make an attempt in reaching out to the EC? We sent letters. We addressed all the, we copied all the commissioners. I personally went and hand-delivered it to her office, to her special assistant. And she promised me she was going to have it delivered to her. We didn't get a response. When we went to court, and many times that the court required them to respond to when we initially put in the writ and the arguments were being made for them to respond, they still did not respond. The AG came in, who was the second respondent, came in and made some flimsy excuse as to why they were having meetings, and at some point, and the judge asked them, if you're having meetings at an agency like an EC, I would expect you to have minutes. Where are your minutes? Oh, well, Judge, I am I am, you know, I'm not as experienced a lawyer, so you have to be easy on me. What kind of excuse is that? This is what their lawyer said. I was in court. I've always been in court. I fly in just to, you know, represent the plaintiffs in court. And every day they made an excuse and pushed the goalpost so that they could have another chance. What kind of attitude is that? For 11 years? They should all be fired. They should all be fired. If we had a serious, I'm telling you, if we had a serious president and we had a serious leadership, they should make a case that the EC was either incompetent or not willing to play by what their mandate states, and that should be grounds enough to fire them. We don't have, listen, do we want to compete globally or what? Oh, this is a joke. If Ghana wants to move and be competitive in a global market, we need to change this attitude of all we need is somebody to come give us excuses and it's acceptable. So long as they can give us excuses and it sounds good, we'll give them another chance. What kind of weak attitude mindset is that?
On that note, I'm going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll try and get to something to find out. Well, there's another argument as to whether voting is a constitutional right or if it's a human right. And if it's a constitutional right, you know, why then do we spend so much money to make sure that New Yorkers come to vote? Don't go. Well, thank you very much for waiting, and this is a very important topic. This is indeed a milestone in our laws. Basically, in 2005, it was, you know, made law that wherever you live, as far as you're Ghanaian, you must exercise your right to vote. It's been shelved for 11 years, and today the court is saying that, listen, it's been on the shelf for too long. Implement it within 12 months. Now, the legal practitioner who led the case is our own brother Samson Ladi Ayenini, and we have him on phone now. Hello, Samson.
Hello, Nana.
Always grateful when we get you on the show because we know we'll have some education. But Samson, this argument about voting being a human right or a constitutional right, is it not more of a constitutional right? I mean, how can that be? How can that be a human right? If you can't vote, you can't vote. I mean, it's not as if you need a doctor or something like that.
Do you want to think what the Supreme Court of Ghana has said about the right to vote?
Well, I won't change. Just arguing quietly on the back.
You're arguing after the fact.
Easy now. I'm not saying they got it wrong either. Just arguing after the fact.
Okay. Well, it was not an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that is the reason we strategically went to court on clear points of law. Mm-hmm. So we didn't actually limit ourselves to what the Constitution of Ghana provides or does not provide to cover the right to vote. And if you have the benefit of the judgment, speculating now because this is a landmark and everybody wants to have a bite. You know, we took the court beyond the shores of Ghana. We took the court to Ghana's Article 17 of the Constitution, which prohibits discriminatory practices, and pushed the point clearly that if some Ghanaians who are studying abroad, Ghanaians who are in Ghana's missions, who are working for the state abroad, are allowed to be registered abroad and to vote from abroad. And yet there are Ghanaians who are as equal citizens as the others, and they are not being allowed to vote. Then clearly that is discriminatory, and the Constitution frowns upon that. And the judge held in the affirmative that we were right on that point. The EC was against that point, that was not discriminatory. We clearly pointed out to the court that Article 42, even though it's not situated in Chapter 5 of the Constitution, is a human right. Bill of Rights, human rights, are contained in Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution. The EC's argument was that the right to vote is not a human right because it's not in Chapter 5 of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And you should read the judgment of the court. The court really mocked that kind of argument because the Constitution provides in Article 33(5), and we went on the strength of that as well, that the Bill of Rights is inexhaustive. What you find in Chapter 5 of the Constitution is not conclusive, it's not exhaustive of the rights that, human rights that Ghanaians are entitled to enjoy. So if you find something which is of human rights nature in another part of the Constitution, you can bring it in. That's Article 33(5). But you see, it even goes beyond that and gives you the right that if there is a human right, fundamental human right, that is necessary or inherent in a democracy, for a democracy to function well, and yet you can't find it anywhere in the laws of Ghana, go look for it where it is applicable and bring it and urge it on the court. That's why we went to the African Charter, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. We went to the Universal Declaration on Human Rights. We went to the European Convention and a couple of other, very strong international instruments that Ghana is party to already, and urge the court on the basis of Article 33(5) to adopt them because they are expected to be so adopted. And the court was clear. We pointed the court to a Supreme Court decision which was presided over by none other than the Chief Justice, which was very clear when the right to vote was being extended to prisoners. Persons who have committed wrongs and have been convicted, and have been sentenced to languish in jail were extended the right to vote. In that ruling, or in that judgment, the Supreme Court said the right to vote is a constitutional right, and even far more importantly, it is a fundamental human right.
Wow.
So we urged that on the court, and the court said the Electoral Commission says it's not a human right, but the court said it is sorry, it can't help the Electoral Commission because the Supreme Court has already pronounced on that, and therefore it's unable to help the Electoral Commission. There were two other cases that the court also relied on to state that point very clearly without any equivocation.
Samson, let me come in here, even though, I'm trying to close the barn gate after the horse is bolted. But, you lawyers talk about spirit and letter of the law. The Supreme Court looking at our situation, and sometimes, even the judiciary complain about their wages coming late. We are short of funds. Within the spirit and the letter of the law, should they then say, look, we don't care whether we have funds or not, open the gates? Those in America, they are okay. They're fine. If they don't vote, what happens? Why should we burden ourselves and extend, voting to the UK and Germany? Why should we do that?
Why should we do that? Because there are Ghanaians there and who are also entitled to the right to vote. It's as simple as that.
I know, but to what cost?
And here in Ghana, our Ghana Revenue Authority collect taxes from Ghanaians. The taxes that it collects from Ghanaians, remittances alone that Ghanaians abroad, in the small number that they are, have brought remittances that far exceed what we here in Ghana have come together and collected to be the tax money that we should use to govern, to manage this country, to run the country. So if they are living abroad and they are in such a small number, and yet all the taxes we put together, they contribute far in excess of that amount. Don't take them as a constituency that do not have equal rights with you, because they sit there or they live there, but they are managing your country for you anyway by the finances, the monies that they bring. We glory in cocoa, how much cocoa earns for this country. They have brought remittances that far exceed what cocoa has brought us. So I don't know what we are actually looking at. And in any case, we live in a tech revolution. We live in a tech revolution. People should think. We should be thinking about the solution rather than continue to recite the problem, like the court said, that the EC has become an expert in reciting the problems to us and has done that for 11 good years. Instead of thinking about the solution, it has always been reciting the problem. So I ask the question, Nana, and with the greatest of respect, if Niger is able to do overseas voting for its citizens abroad, if South Sudan is able to do overseas voting for its citizens, come on, Ghana. Mali, when Mali is going to vote, Malians who are in Ghana, it is the Electoral Commission of Ghana that supervises for Malians in Ghana to vote for Mali election. Come on.
Okay, something.
Niger, Senegal, Mali.
Hold on there, don't go. Hold on there. Let me come to studio and find out from Kofi. Kofi, now here I am in the studio. I'm trying to find out, trying to decide who's going to be the MP. And you could be in New York, you could be in, Milan, having your baking and sandwich and going to vote for somebody who may not be good for us. Because I'm on the ground, I see what's happening, and I know that, look, candidate A will be suitable for us because of whatever reason. You are also in Milan, and obviously your standards are now high, and you are going to take somebody who's probably not going to represent us well, and you ruin the vote.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just say this. You cannot prove to me that that is not happening now. And that's not the point. In any case, that's not the point. The point is, you have a job to do. Do the job.
No, but you see, it's a representation. But you're not on the ground.
But that's not, you see, and this is why, like I always say, we always go above and beyond consideration of facts. Here, everybody's getting on the phone, everybody's calling radio stations and television, making assumptions as possibilities of what could happen out of ROPA, and nobody has facts. The EC has not even said anything. And again, I'm glad we have this incredible human being on the line called Samson Lardy. He is incredible, and I've been saying on radio stations we owe a debt of gratitude to Samson because he has changed literally the course of Ghana. Seriously, with this judgment, I know for a fact that Ghana is going to change. I'm serious. I was in East Legon today. I'm tangenting it a little bit, and people came up to me and said, you know what, with this ruling, we had no faith in Ghana. Now we have faith in Ghana. A gentleman, a doctor, came to me and said he had a building in East Legon. He's not going to sell anymore. He's actually going to reconsider relocating to Ghana. With this ruling, do you understand how pivotal this thing is? Thanks to you, Samson. Incredible job, phenomenal job. But back to your point. The point is, EC has to do its job. You see, democracy will always take its course. The job of us as human beings...
Aren't we open the gate too early? Aren't we I know we say 11 years...
After 11 years too early?
No, you see, yeah, but we're looking at the time. But how about the maturity?
But, Nana, let me... And this is, again, this is our attitude. That's why our gutters are filled and filth all over the country. There's no systems that are working. This is the attitude, defeatist attitude. How do you perfect an art? You perfect an art by starting. Till you start, you don't have a chance in perfecting it. For us to move forward, we're not saying the system is going to be perfect. That's not what we're saying. And it doesn't matter. What it matters is to start. And as we move forward, we tweak it and we perfect it and we get better at it. You cannot get to be outstanding before you get good. You cannot get to be good unless you are satisfactory. You cannot be satisfactory unless first you bad at just giving it a shot.
Samson.
Yes, I'm here.
So here we are, somebody snatches a ballot box a ballot box in Yorkshire. I mean, what do we do? I mean, do we charge them with Yorkshire laws, or we come back and charge them with Ghanaian laws? What happens?
You see, like Kofi just said, and of course they had faith in the possibility of this, and that's why they took it up. And you see, 5 people have done this for the entire Ghanaian living abroad population. Okay? Now, he spoke about something, about people shouting on radio and television with absolutely no information. Look, if I told you that half of the countries on the African continent are doing overseas voting, would you say, why should Ghana also do so? Because that is what it is. Okay? Isn't this the Ghana we say is a shining light in Africa? Come on. Angola. And I mentioned to you, Niger, Mali, South Sudan, for crying out loud. They are doing this. And you know what? Some of them are doing it on a pilot basis. Some of them, they do it for only presidential elections. In fact, the report that the EC's own committee produced in 2011 said ROPAA should be limited to presidential elections. Except that at the conclusion of the recommendation, it says it should be done consciously. Now, consciously, the first and most important significant thing of that to be done, which does not require money, does not require money, is to promulgate the CI, the constitutional instrument. It has taken 11 years, and there has been no step to promulgating the constitutional instrument. All those who are shouting around, just opposing without information. The good thing they need to do now is to think about how they can contribute to make the constitutional instrument what is acceptable to all. The constitutional instrument is to provide modalities for exercising this right. Who says we don't have money? And who says how much is involved? Now come to that question before I answer your question about if somebody snatches a ballot box. In 2016, the Attorney General didn't file any document in court. Attorney General represents the state, correct?
Right.
The Attorney General didn't file any document in court to say it is too expensive, we can't undertake this project. So why are we sitting out there in the fringes and saying it's too expensive? In 2017, the new Attorney General that came over didn't file any document to say it is too expensive, we can't afford it. So come on, what is going on? The EC that elected unto itself to tell the court that cost is one of the problems or one of the issues was told what it needed to hear. EC does not fund anything it does. not a dime. EC does not fund what it does. It is the state that funds it. Did they produce any evidence of having submitted a budget and the parliament had rejected the budget for this process? No, zero. Now to your point, those Ghanaians abroad who already participate in Ghanaian elections, are we saying that they go there as saints and angels and they go through the process and there are no problems? When they commit wrong, how do we deal with them? We should ask the EC that question. They should answer it and stop being mute about that question. When they organize the elections to the embassies across the world for Ghanaians abroad to vote, what law do they apply to them? And I'm sure that we are too familiar with this, that the embassy premises of every country in the other country is an extension of that country. So if you go to the premises of a Ghanaian embassy, for example, to vote, and you are voting in Ghanaian elections, why do you say there's a problem as to which law should deal with you? Let's put it in the constitutional instrument, how you be dealt with.
Samson, thank you very much because of time. Thank you so much for that. But how enthused are Ghanaians abroad about this day?
Ecstatic. Ridiculously excited. I mean, they are over the top. They thought somehow this was not going to happen because we have acclimated to the trickstering of our politicians. So they thought maybe they were going to find a way to make excuses and give us a reason why this could not work. But Judge Anthony Yeboah came through and delivered. And we are excited. We cannot wait to get this thing to a point where we are actually part of the process, because we want to take ownership of what we rightfully deserve and really see change. We want to be part of the change. We want to be able to work here and throw this nonsense, ridiculous law out of dual citizenship. Only applies to, you can only get certain sensitive jobs if you're, it's ridiculous.
That's a new dawn for voting culture, and I know that it will, like everything else, it will all come into play. Mandela says it's only difficult until you start it. You know, once you start it, it just works for you. Let me take this opportunity on behalf of my wife to invite you to Gathering of the Daughters, which is 22nd December at 6 p.m. Forecourt GDA Kokomemle. 22nd September. 22nd December, which is just Friday, coming Friday, at the Forecourt of GDA. All you ladies come and say thank you to God, so you've all been invited. But I want to say thank you very much. Good fight, good fight. More grace to your elbow. It's only the beginning. There's many fights that I prescribe for you to pick up.
I'm sure it's coming, but we're ready. And this time we're not playing.
Great.
We got the big guns out and we're ready.
We're back to do this all over again. Thank you very much for watching.